JP read that, and then I think the Locust was playing with Spanish Corsa, and he printed that particular part of the article on the back of the flyer. So yeah, Chris and Araby's welcome to San Diego was like JP being like, fuck you guys.
Welcome, everyone, to This Was The Scene, the podcast that takes a look back at the late 90s, early 2000 punk scene. I am your host, Mike Doyle. Before we start, this is a repost because I am currently in the British Virgin Islands with my buddy Patrick Bryden for his 40th birthday, living on a catamaran with 9 other dudes. So at this point, I'm probably, I don't even fucking know, dying, maybe. But I felt it was a good idea to stop leaving so much gaps between episodes, and I haven't done a repost in a long time. So here you go. This was episode 203 with Joe from Jejune, and I just thought this was a really good episode. So I was like, all right, here, let me pull this one back out. So I'm just going to read the description and what we talk about really quickly. Jejune was an American rock band formed in 1996 at Berklee College of Music in Boston, Massachusetts. The band has been commonly identified with the emo genre and was heavily involved with the scene at the peak of the second wave of emo in the mid-1990s. The 3 founding members, Arabella, Joe, and Chris, met while studying at college. The band relocated to San Diego, California in 97. They have 3 releases, which are Junk, 97, This Afternoon's Maladay, 98, and R.I.P. in 2000. And I believe a lot of you have heard the split with Jimmy Eat World, which we do discuss, because that is a fucking great split. This episode took a long time to get, and I finally got him on the Skype, as I say, and this is what we chatted about. Being roommates with the president of Geffen Records, dropping out of Berklee, Rama from Big Wheel, staying in touch with Jim from Jimmy Eat World, will they ever have a reunion show, the split with Jimmy Eat World, his band I Wish I, the Actuality of Thought video comp, changing their sound on the second record, almost being kidnapped by Germans, and a ton more. Lastly, if your company's frustrated that people don't get what you do, I can solve this visually with an explainer animation that's usually 60 to 90 seconds. Just email mike@drive80.com, drive80.com, if you want some samples and pricing. That's all I got to say, so feel free to subscribe, leave a review, and share this with anyone who'd love some punk rock nostalgia. With that said, let's get started. So I read that you guys had started the band in Berklee, but for some reason I thought you grew up in Massachusetts, so I didn't realize you grew up in San Diego.
So I mean, yeah, that's kind of what went down is I grew up here in San Diego, and then went to Berklee, met Chris and Araby. Araby was about to finish. She only had I went through a year there. I met Chris because I was wearing an Unbroken shirt. He's like, oh, cool. I'm in this band called Clearwater. We play with a lot of straight edge hardcore bands and shit too. And then he already knew Araby, probably because he thought she was cute or something, and became friends with her. Yeah, I just threw around the idea of starting a band after hanging out with Chris mostly. And so Chris had been there for 2 years. It was his second year. It was only my first year. And then he interjects something really kind of crazy right away, because it's the craziest thing. So when you go to Berklee, they make you live on the campus in the building, and it's filled with fucking mice, especially in the winter. It's cool. It was the blizzard of '96 when I was there. A lot of the roads were shut down and shit. And you didn't want to go anywhere. But where else would you want to be than in a big building full of musicians with practice rooms on every level of the dormitory? It was fun. But my roommate, when I was there for the whole first year, who probably was one of my best friends the whole time, besides Chris and the friends I was making the scene or whatever, was my roommate, and his name is Neil Jacobson, and he went on to become the president of Geffen Records.
Your roommate became the president of Geffen Records?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
He married Ioveen's daughter and everything. Married Ioveen's daughter, took over the company, and then the record label fell. So I think it was kind of for Ioveen, I think it was kind of a thing where he didn't want to fall under him. So he passed it along to Neil, who had married his daughter. I mean, Neil was in the business already. His story is almost a little bit similar in that he dropped out like I did and then made connections really because he was a caddy at like an upstate fancy New York golf club. I can't remember the name. Some Hollywood A&R bigwig guy like took him under his wing and then gave him a job, and eventually he became the fucking president of Geffen Records, and he won't call any of us old friends back.
Jesus.
Like I said, also, and then the label fell once he took control, and then he started this thing called like the Music Acquisition Company, which I guess is kind of like what all the big labels are doing now. They're not really focusing on the old days, obviously, because music is fucking free now. Trying to acquire kind of licensing for like everything that might make them a penny or two.
When you guys were rooming together, was he talking about like what was his? Because I mean, you got to go to Berkeley, you got to be proficient at a certain instrument.
Yeah, he was a badass drummer. He was a badass drummer for sure. But he went on to like A&R for like Y-Class, all these like real like big stars, but like in the pop world. And the funny thing is and in hip hop especially, he was A&Ring and managing these guys that were in hip hop. And the funny thing is like I would play hip hop in our dorm room, and he wasn't into it at all. His favorite shit was like the Grateful Dead, fucking Medeski, Martin and Wood, and Traffic. And he was like one of those dudes where like he didn't seem to have a whole lot of common sense, and he was a troublemaker. But he got in more trouble than I did, fucking with the dorm res guy, like stealing his shit even, and like they'd come to our room like, Neil's causing problems again, and like fucking like if he got a cold, he would just talk to Loogie like on the wall of like the school, like disrespectful, like, you know. And this is the funny part is I think Berkeley gave him like one of those posts, oh, you didn't graduate, but now you're like, we're giving you the ceremonial degree or whatever. They do that for a whole bunch of fucking people. It's really funny. Yeah, you're like an honored alumni now. You know what I mean? Like when he used to just tear shit up there.
So when you're saying that, you're like, so when you went there and you're like, he got more in trouble than you, I'm kind of guessing when you went there, were you excited to go to the school, or like what was your whole perspective of that?
Oh, of course. Of course. I mean, yeah, at one point I really thought I would be like the next Danny Elfman or some shit. It's like, it's exciting, dude. It's an exciting time of life. I had just got done with 13 years of Catholic school, so I'm getting away from my parents and here, and yeah, you're immersed in music, and like jazz became a focus because, I chose it as my first focus there, jazz piano. Well, that's the funny thing about Berkeley. It's like I got accepted to Juilliard, and I went there. I mean, I went to the fucking thing and everything, the audition and everything, and I didn't even know until I went to the audition. Now that it's like, so what do you want to do? Well, I want to learn jazz piano. Well, like, what are you doing here? This is a classical conservatory. Like, we don't. If you want to play jazz, like, go hang out on the street or at the clubs and stuff. Like, we don't teach that shit here. I know it's changed. It's changed now. Like, they're more liberal now, but Juilliard used to be like a full-on conservative school. They didn't teach anything but like classical. I think there was extracurricular shit you could do, but like the main curriculum was like classical stuff. Anyway, that's the funny thing about Berkeley is like, yeah, the first semester I took classical jazz piano from this Eastern European jazz wizard guy. And then the second semester I took heavy metal guitar lessons from Joe Stump. And it's like, you don't know who Joe Stump is.
Joe Stump.
He's as good as Steve Vai or even Marty Friedman or any of those shredder guys, if you ask me. He just doesn't get the glory that like some of those guys do, because I think he's just kind of happy to be like a teacher at Berkeley. Like, and the dude actually looks like it's like you drop like an anvil on Steve Vai. Like he's got like all the rings and the long curly hair and the blousey shirt, the turquoise and pink cowboy boots and shit. Kind of like a squashed version of him, you know what I mean? But like, dude, yeah, he's just ultimate shredder guy. I love that shit. See, other students would make fun of me, like my punk rock friends would make fun of me because virtuosity isn't really an admirable thing, in punk rock. But I was into guitar shredding guys, and he was awesome, dude. He was an amazing teacher. We would play 2-part Bach inventions in our lessons, and it was awesome. It was awesome.
Did you go to school, like when you were there, did you want to be in a band or did you just want to be like a studio musician?
I didn't know what the fuck I wanted, dude. Like I said, I just got done 13 years of Catholic school, 8 years at a Catholic grammar school that was down the street here in Normal Heights, and 4 years at an all-boys Catholic high school in North Park. My parents were super fucking strict, which is why I probably got in trouble all the time. So
Probably.
this is what happened, basically. Yeah, I mean, of course, I planned to stick it out. I wanted to graduate, get a degree, and be a film score guy. But there was one class called orchestration where class was fucking hard, man. You had to learn how to write music for every instrument in the orchestra. I thought I did a fine job. I was also partying very hard. You got a taste of liberation. And I was definitely partying and making friends with people that were coming to see the band and all that shit. So the final for that class was like, you presented your writings of whatever song it was to the class, and they played it. And the drummer guy, like, I had a kind of beef with him because I just didn't like him. One of the drummer in the class, the guy that they selected to perform my song, and he's like, I can't read this, I can't do it. And like, I'd already missed enough classes because I was focusing on Jejune, so I failed the fucking class. And yeah, my dad's like, am I gonna spend $30,000 to send you back to this school if you're gonna fuck around? And I was just like, no. You know what? Nah. Yeah, because like we started the band. Rama was behind us. We were doing little tours, and yeah, exactly. What's the question? Are you going to stay at school, or are you going to go play in a rock band? I'm going to go play a rock.
So how did you guys form? How'd the band form?
Yeah, so Chris had met Araby, I think from maybe a mutual class or two. I think it was, more than just seeing her around. Yeah, he was just friends with her, and I met Chris, and Chris and I maybe jammed once or twice because we realized we liked a lot of the same stuff. It was kind of his idea to try jamming with this girl because she wants to play bass, even though she doesn't have one and has never played one.
Oh, so she wasn't at Berkeley?
She was, yeah, she was a student. She was about to finish. So that's what I'm saying. Like, I dropped out after a year. Chris dropped out after 2 years. I met him when I was there during his second year. We started the band. We realized we wanted to keep the band going. Chris and I realized we were going to drop out, but Araby was almost finished. So Chris moved out here, San Diego, while Araby finished, and then she eventually moved out here too. So the band relocated back to San Diego, my hometown.
Wait, so what was her instrument that she was going to school for?
Vocals, and she's got a degree in engineering.
How were you okay with her just picking up the bass and playing, like on a whim?
Because she sounded good. Yeah, she'd been in bands and around guitars and shit long enough, I think, to at least know how they operate, and probably had a guitar, acoustic guitar in her room or something at a very young age. So it's not like she had never touched like an instrument before. I just don't think she'd ever decided to actually play bass before,
Was she also, so it sounds like you and Chris were in the same music scene. Was she also a part of that, or did you guys introduce the scene to her?
So she's from Hawaii, obviously very different as far as being able to see live bands and stuff. She was in an extremely successful reggae band before she took off for college. I think one of the most successful reggae bands from Hawaii. What were they called? I'm going to blank on their name. She gave me the CD at one point, and it was really good. It was just sounded like Burning Spear or some shit. So no, she was down. She knew a lot of good punk rock and stuff. Her favorite stuff was like Clutch and Jawbreaker. So she didn't know so much about, say, like the shit that I was obsessed with, like the Discord scene, or say like the Gravity scene here in San Diego, specific stuff like that. But as far as like, she read her zines and had a pretty eclectic taste in underground punk rock music.
So were you guys playing in Massachusetts, or did you guys form the band in San Diego?
No, yeah, we were playing at the Middle East. We played a bunch of places. Yeah, Rama found us and started booking shit for us, I think like right after our first show. And we started the band like, yeah, maybe 3 or 4 months into the school year. So we were doing it for like 6 months. We just, yeah, I don't know why, but we just seemed to get real positive reaction right away from the clubs we played at and bands that we played with, and just made connections real fast. Seems like everything happened real fast in those days.
Well, I mean, you guys were only a band for what, like 3 years, 2 years, 4 years?
5 almost, yeah, 4.5, something. Because it was during '96 and until like almost 2001, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, because on Discogs it says RIP is the last thing you're on, which is like a compilation.
Right. Yeah, and we still played some shows even after that came out.
So let's like go back to you guys form the band, and then when you're in San Diego, because I know Rama, he lived out in LA.
Yeah, he moved to LA, but that wasn't even until like 2002 or something, like when Big Wheel was like dissolving, because he started another record label the moment he moved out there called Tarantula's Attack. And I think the only band that crossed over from Big Wheel, or maybe even anything, was The Explosion. Like, he focused on them.
Yeah, he was like their manager, I believe.
Right.
So like, actually, and real quick, I know you said it before, but it's Jejune. Like, it's not Jejune, it's Jejune.
Yeah, I mean, I don't care, but yeah, technically, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like, because I know people are gonna have a question. Like, I interviewed this band called Blunt, and I was like, "Is it Blount or Blunt?" He's like, "It's Blunt." I was like, "All right," and so people were like, "Oh my God, I've been wanting to know that forever." So, because everyone has, I've interviewed people and they've said your name multiple ways. I was like, okay, what's like the proper way moving forward to say this?
Yeah, you got it. You got it. But maybe we should ask that new band calling themselves Jejune that is actually touring with Jimmy Eat World and shit. Like that. I don't know if you know about that. That's just funny to me.
Yeah, I just saw that. Wait, they're touring with Jimmy Eat World?
So they did some shows with Jimmy Eat World, yeah.
That's fucking weird, man.
It is. And I asked Jim about it, and he's like, "Hey, you guys are playing with another band called Jejune," and he just laughed. Yeah, they're the Norwegian Jejune. And I think I wrote back like, "Oh, cool. Nobody cares, right?"
Yeah, it's Jejune, a young post-punk quintet out of Kristiansand, Norway.
I've listened to their shit. It doesn't sound like post-punk to me. Sounds like fucking just like regular ass modern indie pop, whatever. I don't hear any punk. I don't hear any punk in it at all, dude. Yeah.
Do you still wait? You still have you're still connected with Jim from Jimmy Eat World?
I mean, we know each other. We're friends. I mean, yeah, we'll drop comments and jokes and shit here and there. Yeah.
Oh, that's fucking cool.
We don't hang out, but yeah, I mean, if they come to town, I try to go. I just haven't been able to go the last couple of times. But yeah, when they came to Coors Amphitheater, I had just had my kid a while back, and I went to go see them. And yeah, I catch up with them when I can, man. They're fucking awesome. They're the nicest guys that ever got to be rock stars. I mean, if it should have happened for anybody, it should have happened for them, because number one, they toured their ass off. They wanted it bad. Number two, they genuinely are the nicest fucking guys in the world. How can I say? Give an example. Like, we broke down in shitty butthole Utah when we headed out one time, and we broke down, and Rick drove their band to come pick us up and take us like where we needed to go, just because he didn't have anything else to do. Yeah, they're just cool, man. They're nice, and their shows were fire back then. And anybody that saw them would tell you that they were.
Yeah, they were just that band. Like we all put them on a pedestal. Like this is like the fucking band.
Before knowing anything that they were associated with Christie Front Drive or anything, like just hearing Static Prevails, and that's, I mean, the first song on Static Prevails is still my favorite Jimmy Eat World song.
When they got back together and did the and I'll jump back more in the history of you guys, but like when they did the Clarity tour, I know that they brought No Knife and I think maybe another band that they had come up with back in the day. Was there any talks with you guys to maybe play a couple shows on that?
It wouldn't have mattered because Araby will never do it. Araby will just never consider doing Jejune again.
Why?
Trust me, dude. I've tried to work every fucking angle I can with her. She's not interested. There's a lot of different reasons, dude. She'll tell you it's because she's a mom now, and like going out on the road with dudes, just not at all on her priority list. Number two, I don't think she's that proud of the music that we made. I think for her the whole time it was kind of almost more just like an experiment. You know, it started as an experiment for her, almost as she needed something to record, like for projects, for school, for Berkeley. Yeah, another thing is, I don't think that she felt like she ever had the creative control that she wanted. I was pretty tyrannical back then in like my vision, what I thought I wanted it to be. And my vision would change. So that was probably very frustrating for her. You know, at one point we were playing what I think is this kind of rock, punk inspired rock. But yeah, a couple of the songs we did, like say Indian Giver or, you know, one or two other songs on the first record, Junk, kind of put us into that emo category. It had that emo sound or whatever, but I never really bought into the whole thing. I loved Christie Front Drive and I loved even Sunny Day Real Estate, but I wasn't trying to sound like that so much. You know, some bands that we get lumped into, they really embrace that this emo sound idea. Say like Rainer Maria, even though I love their music, but if you ask somebody what does emo sound like, especially like mid-90s emo, that's going to make more sense to them, you know, than what we were doing or whatever. I think Araby liked...
I thought you guys clearly fell into the whole emo genre, though.
Even with the second record?
Yeah, Junk was the one that was the one I got, and also there's the split with Jimmy Eat World, which I want to talk about, and then there's that song on the Actuality of Thought video compilation that you guys are on. Like the sound just to me was just, I mean, if it was slow, it was just considered. If it was underground and slow, I think people were just like, oh, they're an emo band, and you're like, well, not really.
Right, and sad, you know, because I like to write sad shit, yeah, especially back then. I think, those factors you just mentioned are what lent us into it. Probably, if not as much as like, some of the songs were very sad. But again, going back to the point, Araby is like, I think she got frustrated. I think she kind of liked that scene and that sound and wanted to be associated with it, like maybe even more so. And then I kept changing the direction. If RIP had become a full length, I mean, I was obsessed with like early 70s British glam rock shit at that point. Like I don't think it would have borne any resemblance to Junk in that, except for the fact that this is music being made with electric guitars and drums. I'll be totally honest, if you want the real dirt, I wasn't a joy to tour with. I wasn't. I was very selfish in those days.
Why? What would you do? What would you like?
I was very selfish in those days. I was getting drunk all the time. And after I think the first time we met the Promise Ring, we did a gig and then we left and we hit a deer that totaled her Bronco, because we were using her Bronco with a trailer. And our friends Chris and Dave had come along And on the way home, we hit a deer and it totaled the Bronco. And I was passed out in the back. I didn't even fucking, like, I don't think I even woke up or anything, you know, like, because, yeah, we were hanging out with the Promise Ring and Carrie from Christie Front Drive, and I was having the best time ever. And then, yeah, so putting up with me, like, being fucking shit-faced half the time, maybe. And then we were all very kind of competitive with what we thought was good music, and we'd fight over that too.
So you were competitive internally in the band with writing songs?
Well, I mean, yeah, there was never a conversation like, hey, so you're going to be the main singer and I'll just do stuff here and there. And, you know, like, no, like he probably would have sung on every song, and so would have I. It was compromise. And then at one point, you see, like, I would write all the music primarily just guitar riffs, you know what I mean? And then it's a kind of situation where I'd write guitar riffs, we'd get in a room, and then everyone would put their 2 cents in, and by the time we came out, there'd be a song. So I call that a band creating music. You know, that's not one guy writing song. That's a band, you know, where people have their say and they make changes, and it's a good thing because most of the time it turns out better that way. And most of the time, yeah. See, there was one time where I made her cry, like, again, because she had written some songs about her friends who died, and I didn't feel that they were fitting, like, over the song, right? And so I wouldn't allow it to be recorded that way. And yeah, there's that kind of shit, you know?
It seems pretty normal for some bands where it's like someone is trying to like steer the ship, and then but kind of gets a bit too into like, okay, you know, this is my fucking baby. You're gonna do what I say.
And if we're talking about why maybe Araby is the one that has distanced herself, it's probably because Chris and I maybe had a little bit more cohesive an idea of what we thought we wanted it to be, and we would agree more. So it would be like us versus her sometimes.
Did you feel that like the sound you created matched the vision that you guys had, that you and Chris had?
Sometimes. I think Jejune is like most of the bands I like, where there's a couple of good songs in there somewhere. Not everything's a fucking complete banger, but it's got its moments.
What would you have changed in some songs to make them stand out a bit more for you?
We would have taken more time recording the vocals and made sure that everything was good, and then probably had somebody that I trusted telling me what was good and what wasn't, because in my mind, like, everything I did was great. So that was dumb because some of my vocals are terrible. Yeah.
What was the process like when you guys recorded Junk?
Well, just like it was every time. You have this much fucking time to do it, and if it ain't finished, it ain't happening. So finish it.
How much time do you guys have to do that album? Like a week?
That record is from like 3 different recording sessions that were like usually mostly 2 days.
Oh, jeez.
You know, 2 days to get a couple songs. I mean, if you lumped it all together, it might have been 6 days.
Yeah, sounds about right.
But it started, the recording process started, and I think we actually used shit from it just because Araby had a project where she was required to record 3 instruments. I don't know if it had to be bass, guitar, and drums, but, you know, that's what she decided to do. And then our recordings that she used for a school project became like, oh, this sounds kind of good, you know, like, we could use this. And then me and Chris probably thinking that more so than her. So yeah, again, one of the final reasons is why Araby wouldn't want to do it is she just says that, like, yeah, she's a music engineer. She worked at one of the like jingle houses here for a long ass time, making a bunch of money. They had big time clients like Nike and Sprite and shit. And she's not proud of those recordings. So she's like, if I was ever going to do the band again, I would want to remix and remaster the records. Well, we can't even do that because the tapes are long gone. Like, who knows where the fuck they are. And isolation software isn't quite where it needs to be. I bet it will be, in like another 5 years, maybe, where like, I mean, DJs are all about that shit, right? So like, if I can have software that isolates every instrument on a track perfectly with no, fucked up digital bullshit happening, then, but it's just not there yet. What Kanye came out with, that his own stereo that like can isolate a vocal track or something like that. So, I mean, I know the shit's on its way, but from everything I've looked into, it's just not quite there yet. So there's a chance that, yeah, maybe those Jejune records will be released because, as of now, everything on the Big Wheel Recreation roster does not exist in a streaming world.
Yeah, you guys have two, well, it says you have 3 songs on Spotify, and that's it.
Yeah, because they were on comps. Because they were on comps and Rama doesn't own them. For some reason, Rama has no interest in making the entire Big Wheel Recreation catalog available to humankind. I can sit here and talk about what a huge bummer that is for me and my band, but the real truth is that label was an integral part of the Boston straight edge hardcore scene for a nice big chunk there. And none of that shit is available for streaming. So if you want to listen to any of those fucking bands, you have to listen to like a shitty YouTube, recording of it, and it's not nice and convenient there with the rest of your music, yeah. Like I said, it's not even about me. It's about there was a lot of fucking great bands on that roster. There was a lot of really great music. And the straight edge hardcore scene in Boston is missing out if you are not able to access that library of shit. Because you had 10 Yard Fight, fucking
In My Eyes.
Yeah, I think this could go on and on. I'm sure you could have an entire fucking podcast about just the straight edge hardcore bands that were on Big Wheel Recreation.
Real quick, if you're needing an explainer video, that's what I do for a living. My company is drive80.com. You can email me at mike@drive80.com for some samples and pricing. Industries that I've created explainer animations for over the last 14 years are tech, software, medical, pharma, recruiting, nonprofits, accounting, ed tech, and more. That's all I'm going to say. So now back to the show. Yeah, I guess it just costs a good amount of money to host all that shit. But I think, I talked to Amy from Fiddler, and I was asking her why she wouldn't put some stuff up, and she's like, it's just a pain in the dick to have to send out royalties every year to which band member for fractions of a penny or some shit like that. I'm like, I can kind of see that.
Okay, you might have to figure that out once, but I'm pretty sure that the streaming service takes care of it after that.
So when you guys put out Junk, do you call it Junk because it was recorded in so many different places?
I think that's exactly what Araby wanted to call it that because that's, I think, what she thought it was. Yeah,
Oh, man.
It wasn't a mass. We weren't. He was definitely not delusional, at that point of having dreams of rock stardom or any shit like that. This was a way for her to see what it was like to be in a rock band, punk band. I don't know. We had fun. But she comes from a different place. I don't think she's ever really had to worry about money too much. Might have been just a little bit of a lark for her.
What do you mean?
Kind of a fit of fancy, to see what it's like, get in a van and go on tour. I don't know. She made a lot of friends. We had fun. We made friends. And Chris and I probably had our little inklings of wow, what if something did happen? That would be exciting, but not her as much.
Did that cause in the background when you guys were touring or just as a band, was that present basically with you? Kind of thinking going on tour with her and knowing that she wasn't really into it?
I wouldn't say that I knew that. I know it now, but I don't think I knew it then. I think, first of all, it's never cool to be hey, let's let's be stars. Like, let's do this and let's try to be rock stars. That is the lamest thing you can fucking do in the punk rock world, right? That alone gives you an underlying thing of like, well, we're just doing this to have fun and to see what happens. And then it happened, and we had a little moment there, and it was great. But a lot of bands that are very successful and shit, it's because they have, like, number one, they're telling themselves, we're going to do this, we're going to be huge. And then they have, like, a whole fucking team of people that are, like, facilitating the vision coming through. So we weren't about any of that, you know? Yeah. I think Rama did believe in us. I think he believed in us actually more than any of the other bands on his roster. Like, and he made us feel that way for sure. I think he saw something, you know, and he was the one putting deals together, and we appreciated it, and he was good at it. But we're dumb kids.
Whose idea was it to do the split with you and Jimmy Eat World?
Probably mine and Jim. Yeah. So I don't know how it happened, but like, so Jimmy Eat World came and played at the Che, and this is like after I came home, and Chris and I had been listening to their record in Boston for a year and a half. I came home and they came and played at the Che, and I wore this Jejune shirt that I made. And Jim came up to me and he's like, oh, you're in that band? I'm like, yeah, dude, yeah. He's like, oh, yeah. Harry from the Front Drive, from Christie Front Drive, played me your record and we dig it. Like, really? Yeah, how the fuck did that happen? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'd seen Christie Front Drive when they came through and played at like the Soul Kitchen and Espatania and other places in San Diego. I have no idea how a band we started out there and got passed around enough to make it to that sector or whatever. Yeah, crazy how it happens. Luckily, we were around at a time where maybe the internet was not involved. I'll definitely reassure you of that. The internet was probably barely being used by tech-savvy computer dudes. You could burn a CD. You could, fuck, man. People were probably still using tapes even. Yeah, that's actually a good question, how it would have circulated initially. I don't know.
So you became friends with him, and then did you, in that moment, kind of like take your shot and say...
They all came over after the show and stayed in this house where I am right now.
Oh, wow.
And my mom took them breakfast next morning, and then I took them to one of my favorite spots to go cliff diving, I guess. It's really just going to the beach, but there's some cliffs over off Sunset Cliff. There's one called the Arch, where if you go at the right time and the tide is high, you can do there's this kind of cool little place to jump, and then there's some caves around it and shit. You're not supposed to. I think it's always been illegal, but it's kind of a little secret San Diego spot. Don't go do that unless it's high tide, because people have gotten seriously hurt. But anyway, we had a super fun time. Yeah, we did that. What else did we do? Did some other San Diego junk, and yeah, we just were like friends from that point. Jim was writing me postcards.
That's crazy. Did you guys, like, the release came out, because that came out the same year, Discogs says it came out the same year as Junk. So was this before Junk or was this after? Do you remember?
What came out the same year?
It says that the split with you guys and Jimmy Eat World came out on Big Wheel in 97, and then also it says 97 is when Junk came out, so I'm wondering which came first.
I don't think that's right. Well, okay, yeah, so you know what, it could be. It could be that Junk came out in the very beginning of 97, and that split came out at the very end.
When that came out, did you notice getting some more attention because of that split?
Well, yeah, but they weren't huge yet.
Yeah, that's true. But they were like known though. I mean, like you said, Static Prevails, when people had Static Prevails, they were like they were in love with Jimmy Eat World.
Well, considering Static Prevails is their first record, the fact that it's on Capitol,
technically, it's their second.
Okay, well, right, okay, it's their second record. I forgot. I mean, have you heard the story? Have you heard about how they got on Capitol Records?
Yeah, like wasn't Chrissy French Drive or something like that introduced them?
So
Or
yeah, dude, like basically the story I hear from any of the guys have talked to in Christy French Drive about it is that like somebody from Capitol called them. They thought it was a joke or something, and they, at one point, even if they didn't think it was a joke, seriously said, "Hey, if you like us, you should check out Jimmy Eat World." And like maybe they wanted to remain independent, or maybe they really did think it was a joke, but in truth, it was the best thing. Well, not necessarily, but it was why Jimmy Eat World was this band on Capitol Records right off the bat. I got to go see them on the roof there, hang around the Capitol Records building, and that's always funny because, yeah, oh, hey, Mike D just walked by me, and there's the singer of, what was that fucking band? Everclear. Why does he look like he's gonna die fucking from heroin, like in real life, like in 2 seconds? Yeah. And and then one of the days that we went there with them to hang out, Sensefield was there. And so I don't know if like they were checking us and Sensefield out. I don't know. Somehow we both got invited to the Capitol Records building at the same time. And I remember one guy pulled us into his office to some guy at Capitol. He's like, "Oh yeah, I've heard you guys are good. Let me check some of this shit out." And so he put on Junk, and so some of the guys from Sensefield were in the room listening to it. The last song comes in, I don't even remember the name of it anymore, but it's got the part where it's like, "Fuck you, no, fuck you," right? Like Araby wrote "fuck you" as a chorus lyric in this song. And I just remember the guys from Sensefield looking around like, "Wow, that's bad taste. That's poor taste." I just imagine like, yeah, they got a serious look of like, what the fuck is this? Why girl singing "fuck you"? Where nowadays like that wouldn't be nothing, you know what I mean? But I guess it was something at that point. And then in my mind I just imagine, because Sensefield lyrics are like beautiful and how beautiful it is and embrace the beautiful. Like like cussing or like doing anything vulgar with music would be nasty to them.
I think John too, when he was alive, I think he was like pretty religious, wasn't he?
I think so. Yeah. So yeah, you know what I'm saying. They were amazing live. See them in like '94 and showed it. I think I did one show with a band I was in high school. I got to open for them.
Wait, you got to open? You got to open for Sensefield when you were in a high school band?
Yeah, I was in this band called I Wish I in high school. Fuck, man, we opened for Korn. We opened for great GBH. We opened for we got in good with some of the all ages clubs around here, and we did pretty great shows. Opened for Blink. No, I think Blink opened for us.
What?
Yeah, it's this thing called I Wish I. So, well, here's the crazier part, and it has nothing to do with us. Our records were put out by Dim Mak Records. I don't know if you know who that is, but
That sounds familiar.
Jim did a podcast with him recently, and I noticed they didn't talk about our affiliation at all, either one of us. But just kidding. JK. So Steve Aoki is like one of the biggest.
Oh, it's right, because he was like big in the hardcore scene. He was big, he was in a hardcore band back in the day, right?
Well, he wasn't in a hardcore band, but he like was affiliated with the Heart Attack Zine, and then he started Dim Mak Records.
Yes.
And my band is really actually the first Dim Mak record released. And so it's an I Wish I record. And then, yeah, he went on to work with even like Block Party and like other really cool bands that were doing punk. But then the label completely shifted to an EDM thing. If you look at the Dim Mak complete catalog, yes, it starts with punk and hardcore, even hardcore bands. Stick Figure Carousel might have been number one. We just feel like what the real first release was.
Oh wow, yeah, they did Fire in the City of They did the No Knife release, Fire in the City of Automatons, Planes Mistaken for Stars.
Yeah, No Knife's most popular record, I would Thanks, yeah, right.
Yeah. Holy shit. Well, you guys are mentioned. I Wish I is mentioned on their Wikipedia page.
Right, because when it comes down to the true fucking facts, yes, we were in the very beginning of Steve Aoki's musical endeavors, and we were bros, and he would have hardcore shows at his apartment building on the Santa Barbara compound called the Pickled Patch, and he would put on other shows and promotion and works for Hardtack. Yes, he was a hardcore, even straight edge hardcore.
And you guys are also on their Discogs for F Degrees or something album?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I don't think you can stream though, or
No.
that might only be I don't even think you can physically purchase that record anymore. Yeah, it's on the list, but it doesn't really exist.
Wait, so when you guys, just because I want to stay in this for a second, when you went back to San Diego with Jejune, and did you have any like I Wish I fans coming out to see you guys?
Dude, at one point, I Wish I and Jejune were playing together at the same time. And that's actually what it came to a head when I had to cancel an I Wish I show because of the Jejune show. So the I Wish I guys weren't necessarily happy when I came back here with another band, because we were doing some really cool shit. But eventually everybody became good friends. Fucking, the I Wish I guys we all moved in with them. Like, there was this house in Bankers Hill. It's a real iconic San Diego house. It's like, we all moved into this big ass house when Jejune eventually, the other two guys relocated, and I found there's this house in Bankers Hill. It's kind of an iconic house, really. It's across the street from Balboa Park on 6th. Like, once you pull into Hillcrest, this big ass white house, 2-story house. And it was like perfect because one of the guys from I Wish I and a bunch of other friends lived upstairs, 2 of them actually. And then the downstairs became available, and it was this amazingly massive house, in Hillcrest. It was a perfect situation where you could kind of only rent it to like students or like, younger people, because it was doctor's offices. And so there's just one bathroom at the end of the hall and 5 gorgeous rooms. That was really beautiful time in that house, Thorn Street house.
Thorn Street.
I bring it up because we all moved in there, and then Chris ended up marrying the girl that lived upstairs, and she was like, living up there with the I Wish I guys. So we all became one big happy family. I'd say actually some of those guys are Chris's best friends, So for Jejune, there was a really cool all ages scene in San Diego. I mean, I'm ridiculously proud of the San Diego music scene. I think it is far superior to maybe everywhere except 4 or 5 other cities that can compete with it. Not even like it's better. That's why it sucked when in Boston there was a Punk Planet interview planned. I was like too hungover. I was hungover and I forgot about it or something. And they went, and then the interviewer kind of started talking just like shit about San Diego, and I wasn't there to defend it, and talking about bands that are all about style and no substance. No, like, they got it wrong. Like, and Chris and Araby kind of chimed in with this interviewer guy, and then it didn't look so great, especially because they were moving here. And then JP from The Locust read it, and he saw that a band that The Locust would play with a lot. I'll just say it. This band Spanacorzo. In the interview, the interviewer randomly says, "Oh yeah, I think my friend was at a show in San Diego, and one of the guys from Spanacorzo said, like, nice pants or something, because he was wearing cargo shorts or some shit." JP read that, and then I think The Locust was playing with Spanacorzo, and he printed that particular part of the article on the back of the flyer. So yeah, Chris and Araby's welcome to San Diego was like JP being like, "Fuck you guys."
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Holy shit. That's fucking great. Actually, I just talked to this guy, Mark Allen. He's in this band called Counterfeit. They were from San Diego?
Yeah. Well, Counterfeit was a band with that chick Allison from The Kills.
No, not this band.
When is this Counterfeit from?
These guys were, let's see, I forgot when they got. They were like the late '90s, like era. Like they,
So that's later then.
yeah, like they would play at Soma and the one club that's kind of by Cherry Bomb. Shit, he just said the fucking name.
Oh, it's the Tin Can Warehouse. Tin Can
No,
Ale House. I mean.
no, it's another venue. It's a really cool venue. It's right down the street on like 7th or something or L. What the fuck?
Is that the what is it? It has like a German something project, Helmet project or something shit. I don't know, man. There's a couple over there.
Yeah, he was talking about. He said the all ages crowd was good. So when I lived in San Diego, I was hanging out with like the 21 and over crowd, and these guys could give a fuck about anyone. So my taste of the San Diego scene was that 21 and over crowd. We used to go to Scolari's all the time and do punk rock karaoke.
Oh yeah, yeah. I met one of my girlfriends at that.
Wait, you used to go to the punk rock karaoke?
Of course, dude. Yeah.
Get the fuck out of here.
Did you ever see a girl, this cute brunette chick, do a version of "School's Out" by Alice Cooper?
Probably.
Yeah, Jason that used to put it on. Jason. Yeah, he's a bro.
Oh wow, okay. I knew like this girl Rochelle and this girl Lainey and my friend Beth. She was going there, and like Jay from Spaz Boy, he was always there.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and then me and him used to do a rendition of New Kids on the Block, Hanging Tough,
Nice.
like every Wednesday. Yeah. Anyway, but like I mean, so when I was talking to him, I thought didn't get a chance to see the real San Diego scene. So it's funny that you're saying that the all ages scene was great too, because I just didn't witness it. So it's cool to give them like a shout out in this podcast because people are probably like, hey man, like we seem to be a little bit forgotten here.
Yeah, the places that were really cool, I guess, when I was in high school, and just with anybody else that remembers, Soma. Soma was great. When it was downtown, Soma was fucking the best. And yes, everyone hates its owners and blah, blah, blah. It's been that forever. They pissed off Fugazi and John Reese and everybody cool ever. But when you're 14 years old and your mom drops you off in a shitty part of downtown, you walk into this big gnarly 2-story building and you see punk rock bands every fucking weekend, new local bands that you didn't know about, and meeting people. It's the greatest thing in the world. Like Soma was the shit. When it moved, the first time it lost magic. When it moved again, it lost more magic. I think it's still open now, but yeah, Soma was, as far as a venue, fucking the coolest thing you could ask for as a young person. But then, yeah, there was also like going down in East County, like Mesopotamia, the Soul Kitchen, and then over by City College in downtown, Cafe Chabalaba. Man, a good handful of other places.
So just speaking of venues, and this, I've talked to a couple bands that have been on the Actuality of Thought disc video comp, and you guys were on that. Do you remember anything about that show, like that house, or is there any cool story around that?
Oh yeah, I remember the whole thing. Didn't think much of it at the time. It was a show in kind of what seemed like an Elks Lodge kind of a joint. Yeah, some tables were moved aside. You know, there was maybe 20 people there or something. It wasn't like it was open for Jimmy Eat World or Mineral or straight up. Yeah, it was just kind of one of those shows you like. I don't want to say filler, but like you're lucky, or you feel lucky that the thing actually happened, because it isn't like a massive enterprise.
Yeah, it looked like a small venue in the video.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know the guy was going to be was going to be videotaping that, or did you find that after the comp came out?
Yeah, I think somebody said something about there's cameras, but we didn't think much of it, obviously, because when it came out, Rama got all pissed, and kind of rightfully so. I mean, you're not really supposed to just tape a band. Back then it was different. Dude, now that everything's free, back then there was a sense of ownership. And so when Rama found out and he saw this, and so he calls the guy and threatens him, and fucking, I think we eventually settled on like a box of this tape.
Yeah, that shit was like iconic for me because I was in a band. We ended up playing in Greenville, North Carolina, and we're at the skate park, and that was where they filmed like a bunch of that. So I mean, the whole video was shot basically in like the Triangle or like North Carolina, South Carolina. Do you remember where the venue was that you guys played?
Oh man, yeah, it was definitely one of those three places you just mentioned. Yeah, southern part of the Midwest. And yeah, I'm not going to be able to tell you exactly where though.
Yeah, I figured it's like it's kind of a stretch because it was so long ago, and it doesn't seem like it was a huge club or anything like that. But
Well, if anything, I'm at school that you dug that thing. It's, number one, there's two reasons why that video is cool. Number one, because it's basically just silhouette of a band playing with a cute girl in a ponytail. Number two, because that song was like different, even like for us. We're like, let's do a song that's pretty much instrumental, but has like a bit of folk at the end. Oh, sorry about the wind chimes. Hold on, I'm gonna go back inside. Coffee and cigarettes wake me up.
so that video is taken. How close were you guys from that point to breaking up? Like, what's the timeline there?
It was like a good 3 years, I think. I feel like that video was like in the second year of us touring or something like that.
How often did you guys tour? Were you out on the road a lot?
Yeah, that was the mentality. That's how bands got popular. At least 7, 8 months for probably a couple good years there.
Holy shit.
3, 4 years there.
That must have been a bitch because you guys had to start in San Diego every time and then drive like massive drives just to start getting towards the East Coast, which was less intense.
Yeah, we often thought it would be nice if you lived like at least somewhere kind of in the middle of like New York or Chicago or something, and to get around to some of those bigger metropolitan cities. And yeah, LA was not like super huge place for us to hone our ambition. We played some cool shows. We played the Whiskey. KXLU was a pretty dominating cool force back then. That's the radio station that was associated with Loyola Marymount, but they had some tastemakers working there. Played some cool stuff, and they'd have live sessions. So I think they have some CDs actually, or some recordings, I should say, of those KXLU in-shop performances. Like there was a story about how Carp played, and they drove their van like right down the middle of the plaza and over a fountain to get to the like, where the radio station was or whatever. Yeah, everybody did that. LA, and then yeah, LA wasn't a massive. Didn't concentrate on it. It was more about getting out.
What were you guys like on the road? Because you said before that you were like, there was some story where you got drunk or something. Were you guys partiers or?
I was, yeah, for sure. Not so much. Araby, she's a classy girl. I was like experiencing freedom to the ultimate extent as possible and not thinking about consequences for a long time there. Did it cause problems? Not really. Like, I probably maybe made bad impressions on people sometimes that probably could have helped. But we got so much love from people that I respected that I didn't think too much about it. Chris wasn't like into getting drunk, and so I don't want to get too personal into Chris's shit, but there was reasons why he didn't like to see people get drunk. And so we would kind of have almost like a
difference of opinions.
Yeah, there'd be like a little bit of resentment between me and Chris, even if I just, cracked open a beer because he didn't want me to fuck shit up. I mean, I get it. He was like, yeah, he was smart.
When you guys went to record this afternoon's Malady, is that how you say it?
Yeah.
When you guys did that, like, what was that experience like?
Again, the same thing where, like, you've got time. It's a little bit more this time, but it's got time to go and get everything down. And if it ain't done when it's done, then it ain't done. So probably could have prepared for it better. I was just trying to write the perfect song at that point. And when you're trying to do that, like, nothing's going to be good enough ever. So it was awesome because it was with Ted Leo who produced it.
Oh, wow.
From Chisel. Yeah, I mean, we had all had a big admiration for him. You know, we're in a freezing studio in Massachusetts for like 2 weeks. There's no good food around. One night they got Chinese food, and like Araby, I think they were all vegetarian except for me. I think they all vomited the food up because they were convinced that it had been cooked in animal fat or some shit. It was fun, but yeah, I just wish that I'd had maybe someone kind of telling me, hey, that's not so great. It's not as great as you think it is. You know what I mean? Like that vocal part, you might think it's okay, but you can do it better. You know? Yeah. I kind of wish I'd had a little bit more of that.
Well, wasn't that the point of like having Ted Leo though?
Yeah, but Ted is a cool guy. So if he sees that you're maniacal about your vision, he's not going to fucking try to change it. He's just going to try to make it sound as good as possibly can. Production. He wasn't a producer necessarily so much on the creative front of it. I don't think he wanted to be.
Did you like get it? Did you pick up any pointers from him from being in the studio?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he had some cool production ideas. I think it's funny that like on one song, I was like, I'm going to do the Kevin Shields and use the whammy to make a, you know, all out of tune, weird rhythm track. But then he like insisted that he do it. And I was just like, okay, I'm going to do it. You can do it. So I think there was kind of a little bit of both of us maybe experimenting on that record.
So which one did you like better, that or Junk?
Nowadays, I like Junk better.
When the second record came out, did you find that like, I don't know,
I'll just tell you straight up, I don't think any of us were all that super stoked on it.
the second
So
record?
that's kind of a bummer, you know? Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of a bummer when, like, you know your drummer isn't really happy with the way the record turned out. And, yeah. That's how it happened.
So what leads to like the demise of the band in a couple of years? Like what was the final straw?
Araby wanted to play in a band with her boyfriend. Well, I mean, obviously she was unhappy with the creative end of it. Like, if she had been happy with the creative end of it, then maybe it would have, kept her involved. But again, I was morphing. I was obsessed again with like early 70s British glam rock type shit at that point. And I didn't feel like I had to, I felt like very, I guess, invincible back then. Oh, I can completely change the sound of the fucking band if I want to. Like, when, yeah, there were people telling me, like, that's not a good idea.
Oh, shit. Was Rama telling you that?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. His girlfriend, even more than him. Like, yeah, I think it directly came out of her mouth at one point when she heard This Afternoon's Malady for the first time, was like, well, your first record was more like eating candy, and this one is more like a Guns N' Roses or some shit. Okay.
Did you want to keep the band? I mean, it sounds like you wanted to keep the band going when Araby quit.
Well, yeah, man. We were supposed to go to Japan. We had some interest from some interesting people. And, yeah, I did.
You had said before that you grew up in, like, you went to a Catholic school and you had strict parents. Did you think, like, wanting to be on tour all the time was your way? Like, were you doing that because you believed in the band and wanted to go somewhere, or were you doing it more so for the fact of you wanted that complete freedom that you didn't have when you were growing up?
I think that I wanted to make music that I thought was incredible, really thought I could or whatever. And there seemed to be enough people that were willing to help me on that mission. So I think I was just happy about that. It was just all about, as cliche as that sounds, if it was just all about the music for me, I wanted to, I'm still that same person. I'm still trying to make this song that somehow like defines me or something.
Did you guys feel like when you were writing the songs and the albums, because since you guys came from Berkeley and had this, besides Araby just picking up the bass and all that, did you guys feel that you like brought to the table that musicianship that you had from going to Berkeley?
Yeah, I mean, I knew that it was a factor. You can listen to Araby's singing, and it's not like she's trying to sing like the dude from Modest Mouse. It's not like a stylistic way of singing. It's a very like traditional, I'm projecting fucking way of singing that like I'm showcasing my voice kind of thing. And like that was one of the things that maybe Chris and I at times kind of weren't all about. Like weirder shit. Yeah, the musicianship thing. I don't think we felt like we were any different than any of the bands that we played with. In fact, it was probably a bad thing. Punk rock is not about being a virtuoso fucking musician. It's about how cool you get this thing across that you're trying to, right? You know, like if you want to showcase your virtuosity, then start a fucking metal band or something. Like the stuff that I was really into at that point was Pumpkins. The Christie Front Drive record had a massive effect on me, obviously. I just wanted to be in a cool rock band. Yeah, it wasn't about anything else than that. So our sound and the scene that we ended up in, like, yeah, none of that was strategized at all. The Promise Ring, with us ending up on some shows with the Promise Ring, like so early, it lets you know like what people thought of our sound. But did I have any intentions of like that? No.
Did you feel like because you got lumped in with that whole scene that your songs kind of had to match it?
No, and I don't think they do. Yeah, no, that's pretty much the whole thing I'm trying to tell you is that like that our association with that scene was by no means like schemed or fucking ever even discussed or anything. We just found ourselves there. And yeah, the fact that I really loved the Jimmy Eat World, record and made friends with them and that news got out quick or whatever. That's just because that's an amazing record, It was a different sound. There was a different sound, and I liked it. Yeah, I mean, dude, I've been listening to Drive Like Jay. Those guys are, our heroes and still are. I play with John Reese now. Mission accomplished.
What did he do in the band?
Oh,
So Trombino was the drummer, right?
Yeah. So guys like Jejune. Before that, Pitchfork. That's John and Rick and John were Pitchfork and Drive Like Jejune, which, if you ask me, is still the best band from a post-hardcore.
I could never get into that record. I can understand where people, it's either you love it or hate it. I could never. I listened to it the other day, though. I was like, I just can't.
Which one?
The one with
Which one? Yank Crime?
The one with the ink dropper on the cover.
Yeah. See, listen to the first one. I mean, if you don't like that one, then you might not like Jejune at all. But first one is still my favorite, and you can't even stream that anymore because Cargo Records is similar to Big Wheel in that they have not made their entire catalog available for streaming, which is a real fucking shame too, because Cargo Records had, premier San Diego shit.
Yeah, the Cargo put out the first Blink album, right? With grilled cheese. Is that the same record label?
Yeah. I think so.
So I'm gonna start wrapping this up. Before I ask the last two questions, is there like a story from back then that you've never told in an interview that you want to tell now? It could be like some crazy story, it could be a funny story. It doesn't have to be anything that's like, it's whatever you want to tell.
There's a guy who like documented the scene, and his name is Paul. He was with us when when I was in Boston, my friend Dave, I met people, this guy lived in Roxbury, his name was Dave. He ended up being like moving out with the rest of the band to San Diego, and then ended touring up with us and stuff. And yeah, when our van broke down, it was in the middle of of Utah, some shitty part of Utah. I think this story has been told in a zine before, but when the van broke down, we ended up in a junkyard for a while hanging out. And at the junkyard, there was this fat guy riding a tricycle and a cowboy hat around. And we didn't see him. And all of a sudden he just kind of crept up on us and we all got really freaked out. That's a dumb story. I don't know. No, I don't have anything for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, where is this going?
Yeah, I would tell you about, the chance encounter of meeting some celebrity or something like that, but that's stupid. And the fact is that I just don't remember very much.
That's fine. Sounds like a good 3 years of touring.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I know. I'll tell you this one. Okay, so we were in Europe. I think we were in Germany, or some small town in Germany or something. And I was, these German guys noticed that I was drinking. Two real weird, creepy looking guys. They decided to make me like their buddy for the night. And they pulled me into their booth and they kept getting me fucked up. At the end of the night, I'm shit-faced and I'm standing on the street with them. Everybody in the entourage has noticed, these guys are clinging on to Joey at this point, very strangely. And they'd come up a couple times and I'm hey, Joey, man, we're going. And the guys are no, he's coming with us. But no, it's just, we have more beers or some shit. I'm yeah, I'm going with them or whatever. And so I think they had to pull up the van, up to the street where I was hanging out with these guys and grab me by the shirt and try to yank me in the van as these two guys were not letting me go. Yeah, that made for a funny story for everybody else. Yeah, you just got to wonder what would have happened if the band had not come to the rescue for me.
See, when you said that, I thought they were driving the van initially, and I was like, oh my God, but it turns out it was just your band trying to save you.
Yeah. I'm on the corner I'm standing on the street with these guys that aren't going to let me go. Yeah, Rob, the driver, pulled up the van. I think Chris grabbed me, and they're pulling me down the street, with the van door open while these guys are still running after me. So I don't know, must have had something they wanted real bad. It wasn't just the value of my life. But,
they just really enjoyed your conversation.
Yeah, I think that's what it was, really.
Yeah.
It is a charmer. I'm a real charmer.
All right, man. Last question, I'll let you go. Actually, no, two more questions before I let you go. For the last one, what would you like to plug? It could be about you. It could be about a friend. It could be about both.
Well, I'd like to plug, the new Swami record. I finally got to, I got to play on a record with my favorite San Diego artist of all time. And now we're doing a little touring and playing around. I got a New Year's show coming up. Please check out the Swami record. I was hanging out. I met Andrew from Drab Majesty 2 nights ago because I did a show with Gary Wilson at Footsie's in LA. He's just super cool. Drab Majesty, I'm hoping that maybe he asks me if I want to maybe come fuck around on a keyboard with him at some point. I played with Lee Rocker from the Stray Cats for a while because rock and roll piano is really what I do best, I guess. I play in a band called Cashed Out. It's a Johnny Cash tribute act, which usually I don't really like tribute acts all that much, but I love Johnny Cash. And this guy's voice, Doug, sounds amazingly like the Man in Black. Yeah, so I'm going to plug my own shit, obviously.
Nice.
Yeah, my solo record. There's not even a way to search for it. Any of the stuff. But yeah, the new Swami record. Check it out.
Okay. All right, last question. What scene ethics do you hold on to this day?
Wow. None. Yeah, I'm not. I was never straight edge. And the whole DIY thing. I was never a record label owner or a promoter or anything like that. Now I just play at venues and bars, like any other asshole. Yeah, if I was involved somehow with all ages stuff or had a political punk agenda, I'd have a better answer for you. But nah,